Wanna know why I love wrestling? Because it's stupid, and I mean that in the most positive way possible. Where else can I see people pretending to be the Walking Dead or wearing a mask because they were hideously burned as a child? Outside of the walls of sports entertainment is borderline horrific, but add in that wrestling context and all of a sudden everything is okay again. It's a world like no other, and I wouldn't change it for anything. It's a concept that's just been embraced by everyone because over the years some performers have been given some truly idiotic gimmicks and yet received by the audience as if they're the be-all and end-all. It goes to show how important embracing the moment is, and while some people are screwed before even walking down the aisle, looking at you here, Beaver Cleavage, the opportunity is always hiding away somewhere for glory. I'm Simon from WhatCulture. This is 8 stupid WWE gimmicks that got over huge. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to stay notified. Ding, ding, done. Number 8, the Hurricane. I love the Hurricane. From that nonsense opening where he shouted, "Stand back, there's a hurricane coming through," to thinking he had the strength of 1,000 suns, he was a superhero character before superheroes had re-entered the mainstream, thanks to the likes of Christopher Nolan's Batman movies and, of course, the Marvel Universe. That's not to say they weren't popular, because on some level they always have been, but it wasn't a completely obvious idea when Shane Helms appeared in a mask and acted like he was about to fly off and save the world. In many ways, you could say it was a risk. Given he had a Green Arrow tattoo on his arm, it made perfect sense for the former WCW man. And as the invasion angle drew to a close in 2001, Helms did indeed start acting like he was a superhero. The audience loved it and there was no doubt he was over, so much so that in 2003, he had a mini feud with The Rock and he even beat him. His merchandise sales improved during this run too, and it was that lovely balance between kids kinda thinking it was real and adults just enjoying the absurdity of it all. The gimmick ran its course eventually, but given Helms never found the same momentum as anything else, he adopted it again in 2008 and it's been there ever since. He found his place, owned it, and left his mark. Number 7, the Blue World Order. Given that the BWO started as a joke to make everyone backstage laugh at the 1996 November to Remember, it's quite amazing that it turned into what it did. If you don't recall, the answer to that is one of the most popular gimmicks in ECW history. An obvious send-up of the NWO, the Blue Meanie became the Blue Guy, or Scott Hall, Stevie Richards was Big Stevie Cool, or Nash, and Nova transformed into Hollywood Nova, or Hogan. It was as ludicrous as it sounds, as all three acted like those they were parodying, complete with blue t-shirts. Fans loved it. It got so much momentum, it helped Stevie Richards ascend the card to the main event, and this was a success until they disbanded in July 1997. It had legs though, as even WWE used the group a few times in the 2000s, and amazingly, you may even go to a random indie event today and see the three walk into the ring dressed like this. Again, it's dumb when you think about it for what it is, but that's utterly irrelevant as it works so well. Number 7, Goldust. The best way to actually understand how nuts Goldust is to try and explain the character to someone who doesn't watch wrestling. Where do you even start? He's a dude who dresses in gold and he thinks he's a movie star or something and was meant to play off homophobia at the time, where apparently that was okay, but it wasn't. Oh yeah, and he also kicked people in the balls really hard. Then these people walk off and you're no longer friends. You can't say that it wasn't a success, however, because here we are over 20 years later and Dustin Runnels is still smashing it in the WWE and has made the gimmick his own. I don't know anyone who doesn't have mad respect for the gold one. This is even more incredible when you consider the rumour that apparently Vince McMahon only gave Runnels this character as some kind of rib towards his father Dusty Rhodes. That soon didn't matter though, because he did so well in the role, he was brought back to the WWE over and over again because the chairman saw how versatile Dustin was in the role. He could fit anywhere on the card and do it well. Serious, comedy, somewhere in between, Goldust was a hero in the ring, hence why we're still talking about him now. Number 5, the Doctor of Thugonomics. John Cena wasn't always the goody two-shoes we know today, because at one point he wore a daft hat and pretended to be a rapper. What's more amazing about this shift is that before he embraced it in 2002, there were mumblings WWE were even considering letting him go. Can you imagine the state of the company if that happened? However, during a European tour that year, he started freestyling on a bus and impressed everyone so much, it didn't take long for him to morph into such a guy on TV, and then it all took off and then some. Really though, especially through today's lenses, it really was awful. He acted like Eminem, made jokes about gay people, and basically acted like an utter goof. Can't deny the reactions he got. Cena went from just another guy to the guy. Even though it's hard to imagine today, around this time, he was cheered like the next big thing. Which he was. Although, yeah, the idea was still nonsense. Number 4, The Undertaker. You must have known it was coming because really this is so dumb, it's amazing it's become what it has. Strip everything back and The Undertaker is a walking zombie man who at one point was controlled by an urn. And his manager was called Paul Bearer. I'm not explaining that one either. If you don't get it, there's nothing I can do. It worked though, obviously, and a huge reason for this was how he was booked. Vince McMahon didn't even want Taker to be knocked off his feet, so seeing this giant get hit with everything but the kitchen sink and sell nothing, well, it was cool. He was unstoppable, and his weird kinda face, kinda heel demeanor just allowed him to feel utterly different to everyone else on the card. He was a cartoon, sure, but he was one with a very serious edge. Mark Calaway deserves all the credit in the world for what he achieved here, and it's easily one of the greatest gimmicks in history, even though at times he was meant to have died before reappearing down the line. No one else could have ever pulled it off. It's another situation where people roll their eyes when they first hear it, but then too get drawn in once they see it. It's too cool and stupid, but cool. Number 3, Mr. Socko. Everything was over in the Attitude Era. Porn stars, pimps, dudes who loved mops, some guy that shoved his ass in people's faces, and yes, sock puppets called Mr. Socko. Introduced by Mankind to cheer up a despondent Mr. McMahon as he sat in a hospital bed following a whooping from Stone Cold Steve Austin, it was 2 words from McMahon which kind of cemented this as gold. As Mankind left the room, with utter despair, Vince muttered the Sock's name, and that was that. A hero was born. The next night, Mr. Socko signs flooded the arena, and Mick Foley soon began incorporating into his act, wrapping his hand in his new friend before using it to apply the mandible claw. It was so dumb and often got bigger reactions than anything else on Raw, even though it was just a grown man running around with a sock. It'd be like me turning up on a Y video wearing pants on my head just because. No one would get it at first, but in time, well, you just never know. Number 2, Damien Mizdow. You've got to hand it to Damien Sandow. The guy tried his best to make everything he was given work, whether that was tagging with Casey James for a short period in 2006 as the intellectual savior of the masses, or when he was doing his impersonation gimmick. It was during this last run where Sandow was hired by Hollywood superstar The Miz to be his stunt double, which basically meant taking bumps for him. This soon grew to see Mizdow mimicking all of his employers' moves and mannerisms, even when he wasn't wrestling. According to Sandow, he was unsure whether or not this role was going to be a one-time thing or a long-term storyline. He and Miz never reversed anything beforehand, at least in the beginning, and his decision to mimic Miz's actions and mannerisms was an on-the-fly improvisation. The gimmick was beloved, however, and helped Mizdow become one of the most popular dudes on the roster. Naturally, this meant before long he had to split from The Miz, and after the latter one, Damien was dropped like a bad habit. He cut that one amazing promo, and then had his legs ripped out from underneath him. All things considered, mind, this probably went far longer than it was meant to, and it was damn entertaining. Number 1, Eugene. Even today, trying to explain Eugene is hard. No matter how you try and spin it, it's difficult to not make it sound like the most offensive and insensitive idea ever. Let's get a guy to run around and pretend he's struggling somewhat. Contrary to popular opinion, however, Eugene wasn't the idea of Vince McMahon or the WWE creative staff, but it was in fact created by Nick Dinsmore, the man who played the damn thing. As he saw it, the concept of an educationally challenged man outside of the ring but a wrestling genius inside of it had serious legs. Eugene then did debut on WWE TV in the spring of 2004 as the nephew of general manager Eric Bischoff. He was partnered with William Regal, who was in charge of looking after him, and even straight away it's a bit off. It did work though, and soon fans were well and truly behind him. He became so popular in such a short space of time that he was immediately put in the top storylines on Raw, mixing it up with the likes of World Heavyweight Champion Chris Benoit and the members of Evolution. WWE basically played the character just right, and Dinsmore gave his all to the role. Could have been a career killer, but Eugene actually got him the most exposure ever. He became an enhancement guy in later years, yes, but Eugene at one point was over like Rover, even though the gimmick was, well, stupid.
Gosh, can you believe that person said that about that particular video on that entry? I sure can't. But you should like, share and subscribe below anyway. And also, the people who made this video, they're right here. Go follow them and give them some love. Also, there's more content, probably above my head. Check it out. Or don't. 50-50.